Imagine solving a problem like this. Okay. You try solution, step 1, you try solution. Step 2, you try another solution. And step 3, repeat step 2. This is an inefficient solution. This is an inefficient way to solve problems. This sounds really familiar to me. When I started my coding journey, this is how I would solve problems. I would write code, I'd jump into a problem enthusiastically. I'd write some code, hit some roadblocks, and end up getting stuck in an endless loop of trial and error. So I knew I was doing something wrong. So I turned to the best problem solvers in the world, engineers. There, I was introduced to the Feynman technique. This is a technique that engineers use to change the world. Think about everything that requires engineering. The bridges we cross, the planes we fly, the cars we drive. That's all a result of the mastery of problem solving by engineers. So what is the Feynman technique? Step 1, understand the problem. Albert Einstein once said, if I had 1 hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and only 5 minutes thinking about the solutions. That just shows the power of understanding. Understanding the problem is the most crucial step. Without this, you'll be stuck in that endless loop of trial and error. So how can we solve a problem? This is how. This is what engineers use to solve problems. This is a rubber duck, if you guys can't see. You're probably thinking, why am I holding a rubber duck? Picture this. You're at your desk, you're a software engineer. It's late at night. You're trying so many solutions, but your code just won't work. Can you picture it? Because I can. It's okay. So you're at your desk. You can't solve this problem. So what do? You take this rubber duck from your drawer, you put it on your desk, and you start talking to it. You start explaining the problem to the rubber duck. You're probably thinking, software engineers are crazy, and you'd be right. But there's reason to why they talk to rubber ducks. That reason is because this is a technique, a very famous technique, called the rubber duck debugging method. So the rubber duck debugging method is a method where you simply talk to a person or an object, something that doesn't have any background knowledge on the topic, and you have to explain to them the problem that you're facing. And this works because you're forced to break the problem down into its most basic, its most simple form, and that forces you to fill any of the gaps in your knowledge. So to understand a problem, you need to explain it to a rubber duck. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. That was by a very esteemed problem solver, Albert Einstein. So that's the first step to understanding a problem. Second step of the Feynman technique is the plan. Planning is extremely important as well. If you can write down the problem clearly, then the issue is half solved. That's Kilden's law. So by writing down a clear, concise, and simple plan, you've already solved half of the issue. So how do you write a plan? How do engineers write plans? Well, software engineers plan using pseudocode. A pseudocode is a step-by-step description of an algorithm in simple, plain English. This allows them to see how to make their algorithm without getting bogged down into the complexities of programming languages. By writing down the problem, by breaking it down into simple, actionable steps, it allows someone to be guided to solve the problem clearly and setting them up for success. This is a pseudocode for making coffee, for example, an everyday problem that we all face. So step 1, gather the necessary ingredients and tools. And step 2, fill the coffee maker with water. Step 3, add the grounds to the coffee maker. Step 4, start the coffee maker. Step 5, pour the coffee into the mug. And step 6, stir the coffee. See how a problem of making coffee can be broken down into these simple, easy, and actionable steps? That is what a pseudocode allows you to do. It allows you to see the path to solving the problem clearly. This sets you up for success. This allows you to break out of that cycle, the endless cycle of trial and error that we've all been stuck in. This plan allows you to solve problems clearly and efficiently. Now you have a plan. So now let's move on to step 3, divide and conquer. Let's circle back to our plan from step 2, the pseudocode for making coffee. To divide and conquer would take, instead of taking the entire problem and solving it at once, we would instead take the first step, divide it from the rest of the problem, and conquer it individually. That allows us to make a complex, long, complicated problem and simply conquering it one step at a time. For example, we would gather the necessary ingredients and tools first, then fill the coffee maker with water, then add the coffee grounds to the coffee maker. That sounds like something we all do. That sounds really obvious, right? But the truth is, engineers are faced with problems far more complex than making coffee. And sometimes, when you're overwhelmed, when you're intimidated by a problem, you forget that, and you try to attack the problem head on, all at once. It's not efficient, and you end up getting stuck in that loop of trial and error. So, to solve problems, you need to take it one step at a time, divide it, and conquer it. But what happens when, for example, a step is too difficult? For example, step number 3, add coffee grounds to the coffee maker. What if that's too complex for you? What if, I don't know how to do that? What do? You can break it down further. So how do you add coffee grounds to the coffee maker? You open the filter compartment of your coffee maker, you place a coffee filter into the compartment, you scoop coffee grounds into the filter, and you close the filter compartment. See how I broke this step down into even more steps? With complex problems, it doesn't matter how complex, you can always break it down more and more and more. You can always divide a problem more and more and more until you're able to finally conquer it. This is how engineers solve complex problems. So, that's how you solve a problem like an engineer. Let's use the Feynman technique and put it to the test by solving an everyday problem that we all face. We're stranded on a deserted island. The only resources we have is wood, coconuts, and of course, we cannot forget our trusty rubber duck. So, our goal is to escape. So we need to start using the Feynman technique. So let's start. What's step number 1? What's step number 1? What's the first thing we should do? So, yes, before even checking if you're okay, you take this out, this here little rubber duck, and you start talking to it, explaining the situation. So, hi rubber duck, I have wood for building, coconuts for sustenance, and I have you for the Feynman technique. Our goal is to escape the island using the resources we have. So, okay, goal was defined, situation explained. Thank you, rubber duck. So now, the next step is to plan. So our plan for escaping the island should consist of small and actionable steps. So we can make a plan for escaping the island like this. Assess our resources. That's small, that's easy. Check. Construct a raft. Okay? Gather provisions, navigate our course, and signal for rescue. So we have a plan, we have a basic outline of how we're going to escape. That turns a seemingly impossible challenge of escaping a deserted island into something that seems not as intimidating, something that seems possible. So now, let's move on to our third and final step, divide and conquer. So let's say, for example, we don't know how to construct a raft. That's a perfectly normal thing. I don't know how to construct a raft. So how can I break that step down even further using dividing and conquering to allow me to construct a raft, to allow me to conquer the problem? We can break it down further into gather materials, design the raft, assemble the frame, secure the planks, and reinforce and waterproof. See how I went from escaping an island to then constructing a raft to then gathering materials and designing a raft. See how I broke down the problem, a seemingly impossible challenge, into something that I could do, something that's possible, to turn a complex problem into something simple, to solve problems like an engineer. Using the Feynman technique, we all enable ourselves to solve problems like engineers. Using the Feynman technique, we can all become problem solvers. And for engineers, there is no problem too big, and there is no challenge too daunting. Thank you.